Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand, and we've got a big Goldbridge hot take where I look at things that maybe won't happen but probably should happen but may be controversial. Sell Harry Maguire, sign Torres and Timber. That is my hot take for today, and I want to know what your thoughts are on this because look, Harry Maguire has been at this football club for what, 3 years? £80 million signing, he's 29 now. I believe you could sell Harry Maguire this summer for around 50 million quid. Now, I'm not going to name clubs, but I imagine there would be some. Maybe an Everton would look at him. Maybe a Newcastle would look at him. He's certainly a good centre-back. But having said that, even if we'd bought Harry Maguire and he'd done well, I think sometimes people get locked in on this whole £80 million thing. We bought him at 26 for £80 million. He was too much money. But if we were selling him at 29 anyway, you wouldn't recoup 80 million. And I think this is sometimes where we're a bit unfair on the Maguire transfer, is that we were never going to recoup £80 million on a 29-year-old. And if you were selling a good Harry Maguire at 29, you'd expect to get between 40 and 50, which is a good deal for United. If we wait a year and he doesn't do well under Ten Hag, like many predict, then what's he going to be worth in a year's time? Probably 30 million. So is now not the time to open your eyes and say, look, it's not because you've had a bad season. It's because you're 29. You're not really part of the future. You don't really fit in with how we want to play. Now's the time for you to get another big payday, another big move, and we move him out and we bring Torres and Timber in. Because I tell you what, when I look at it, I don't expect Harry Maguire to leave. In fact, I read something yesterday that that's not going to happen. But why isn't it happening? If this is an evolution and this is a big change at Manchester United, surely it needs to be symbolised by a big change. And if you did remove Harry Maguire and your centre-backs next season, because Bay's going to go and Jones is going to go, were Varane, Timber, Torres and Lindelof, well, there's 4 very good, modern, sort of Ten Hag type of signings that realistically would be good enough for the next 2 or 3 years rebuild. I don't expect Manchester United to do it, but is there any reason why we can't do it? As I said, I think Torres solves a problem in that back four because he's left-footed, he's mid-20s, he's ready to take that next step. Very good centre-back. Some people think he's a bit slow or he plays a bit deep. I mean, we saw against Liverpool, Villarreal had to go for the game in the home leg. They played a very high line. He was absolutely fine. I think the season before last, he actually recorded the fastest sprint time in La Liga. So he's fast. We know Timber's fast. We know Timber can play in a Ten Hag system. And being a bit younger, maybe that would be the ideal thing to do. I certainly would love it to happen. And not because I'm anti-Harry Maguire. I'm actually saying, another thing that's not been mentioned is this not the best for the club, for the player, and for the future of both? You get a bit of money, somewhere between 40 and 50 million. He moves to a Newcastle or an Everton or somewhere like that, maybe even a Spurs, I don't know. I don't know who would be interested in him. I guarantee there would be people interested in Harry Maguire. He's still going to start probably every game for England in the World Cup. So he will be a player that people are interested in. I don't think this is necessarily about Harry Maguire being a bad footballer. You know, a year ago when we got to the Europa League final, we really missed him. But that was in a team that played a different style of football. I think the way that we want to play under Eric Ten Hag, I just don't think Maguire's going to suit it. And even if he does suit it, I don't think he's going to suit it in 2 years' time. I think Harry Maguire is a very physical centre-back who at 29, 30, 31, he's not going to become more agile, he's not going to become quicker, he's not going to become... I don't believe he's a centre-back. And everybody's suited in different ways, but I think when you look at Timber and you look at Torres, I think these are 2 centre-backs that are capable of being left on their own with the other centre-back and saying to the midfield push, saying to the full-backs push on, and being left with their other centre-back with maybe 2 strikers, sometimes maybe 1, and saying, look, I'll deal with it. I'll deal with the ball over the top. I don't think Harry Maguire's comfortable when Luke Shaw or Telles have gone, when McTominay and Fred aren't close by, when he's not close to his own penalty box. I think Maguire on the halfway line, stood with a forward, I think that's his worst nightmare. And I think that's something we want to do if you're going to be a high-line, dictating, possession-based team. You are going to get hit on the break. I don't know why people can't understand this tactically. Daley Blind played centre-back for Ajax. Yes, he did. But pace isn't always the thing. You can't. It's not simplistic. Football's not simplistic enough to just say, well, Harry Maguire can't play in a high line because he's slow. You can play in a high line. It is a weakness if you're slow. But does Harry Maguire strike you as the sort of centre-back that can stand on the halfway line with one other centre-back, probably 20 metres apart, the striker attaches themselves to Maguire, a ball goes in over the top that the keeper can't get to? I don't think he wants to be in that position. I think maybe Daley Blind doesn't mind it. He can deal with it. It's not his strength, but I think he can. Maybe Maguire can be coached to do that. But again, you're talking about a 29-year-old centre-back who's very different to what... You're asking him to do a completely different job to what we bought him for. He's not naturally that type of a centre-back. He's not naturally a Van Dijk or a Rudiger or even a Varane when he's done it with Ramos. And I think now, I look, it's a hot take. It's not necessarily going to be a popular choice. I certainly don't think it's going to happen. But riddle me this. In a year's time, when Harry Maguire doesn't settle into the system, is he still worth 40 to 50 million? Or is he now a bench player who's worth 30 million? And what does that do for his career when he's 30? What does it do for him? I just think that maybe there's a mature conversation here that he's probably going to lose the captaincy as well, which would bother anybody. Maybe he retains it, maybe he starts. Maybe we're talking about nothing. But if he is going to lose the captaincy and his place is going to be under threat, maybe now's the time to go, you know what? I'll go Newcastle for 50 million. Maybe now is the time, and maybe that's a very good move for him. And maybe some people just need a fresh start. Maybe the United situation did become so toxic that it is right to take a fresh start for Manchester United. I don't think they will do it, but it got me thinking, and I want to know what you think. Personally, I think that Maguire out, sold, would be good for him, good for the club. No hate, no, nothing like that. This is about football. And a Torres and Timber would cost you 32... 45. I think you'd get them for around 70, 75 million. 75 million for Torres and Timber, yeah? You sell Maguire for 40, you've actually only spent 35, which you were going to do anyway, keeping Maguire. Forget the 80 million, the club needs to write that off. That was Ollie's mistake, it was the club's mistake. It's not Ten Hag's mistake. We're going to spend about 35 million on Timber or 45 million on Torres. That's what's going to happen this summer if we keep Maguire. We could sell Maguire for 40, 45 and get Torres and Timber. And I think that would be revolutionary. I think that would be a step forward. And I think as long as Maguire was happy going elsewhere, I think it's a good thing for everybody. But look, I don't think that's going to happen. But I think that's the whole point of doing these types of videos. It's to look at something. I mean, because I could say, let's sell Ronaldo and get Neymar. It's completely ridiculous. But this actually, logically, in my mind, is an option that makes sense. And straight away, I think, as long as Maguire's happy going wherever he's going, Manchester United are suddenly refreshed. Our defensive line is going to be very different. The way we're going to play football is going to be very different. You know, we're going to be more proactive. We can push higher. We've got ball players who are quick. I think it would be something that Ten Hag would like to do, but unfortunately, I think politically, there are certain things he can't do. And I think even if he said, look, let's sell Maguire and get Torres and Timber, the club would say, his contract's not up until for 6 years. He's on 200 grand a week. No one will buy him anyway. We're just going to have to crack on. And that's a problem that will happen. Logically, I think it makes a lot of sense if you can please all parties. Factually, I don't think it will happen because the club will be talking about losses of income. Whereas I think a Man City or a Newcastle, maybe even a Liverpool, would go, we'll worry about the financials. This is a new manager. This is a new start. We need to focus on the team. And I think that's why I would do it. But unfortunately, I think financials will get in the way. Anyway, what do you think? Make sure you smash a like on the video if you like this new sort of a video style. Hot takes where we look at things that can happen, but probably won't happen, but possibly should happen. Get your comments in below. Let me know what you think. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe. I'll speak to you on the morning show.